Well, the levels of the Red River continue to rise in Greater Grand Forks, but the colder weather seems to have slowed that rise a bit. As we mentioned, the river's only gone up about a foot in the last 24 hours. With the completion of the flood protection system, you won't really see anyone throwing sandbags on dikes inside the city limits, but that doesn't mean there is not work to be done. Flood fighters meet every morning to ensure a checklist of about 75 tasks are done. City says the system is performing well, even as the red has passed its crest of 2006.
And we're servicing it with our street and maintenance people to make sure things work as directed. We have a plan in place to make sure that we respond appropriately, and that plan is working well. I think the city is very well protected.
Grand Forks Mayor Mike Brown says he has a lot of faith in that system and also in the forecasting of the National Weather Service.
Some areas in the Burke addition have reached their goal of building the dike to 54 feet there. Volunteers have been busy sandbagging around the clock for the last few days. Today the water reached the dikes in the Burke addition. The river is expected to crest at 53 feet.
I came out this morning and we were out here yesterday, so maybe out here again tomorrow if they need us.
They are still looking for volunteers to sandbag overnight tonight and to load trucks tomorrow morning starting at 7. If you would like to help out, call the Grand Forks County Emergency Operations Center. That number is 787-8052. And the Grand Forks Water District would like to remind those in the Burke and East Lake Drive areas to turn their water off by the water meter if they do evacuate.
Kennedy Bridge is the only bridge now open between Grand Forks and East Grand Forks, but police are asking people to avoid the Kennedy if at all possible. Of course, since that is now the only bridge connecting the two cities, that might be pretty hard for some to do. This is video from this morning just before 8 o'clock. As you can see, a constant stream of cars going across the bridge. The Kennedy Bridge will stay open until the river rises to 52 feet and may actually be able to go a little bit longer than that. The Point and Sorley bridges in Grand Forks did close earlier this week, and the Thompson Bridge closed last night. People who work near the bridge on Gateway Drive say getting out is almost impossible.
It's all day. We tried getting in and out of here, like leaving, going right or left here. We can't do it. We gotta wait 10 minutes for everything to stop.
Now, crews in East Grand Forks today were working to make a little bit of a dike along the approach to the bridge. That's an effort to keep it as open as long as possible. That's the low side of the approach to the bridge, is on the East Grand Forks side. So again, it would possibly close at 52 feet. That's a river level of 52 feet. There are 2 ambulances staged on the east side of the river right now. Altru has one at the north end station, and Crookston has one for south end work if they're needed. If the Kennedy does close, Altru will pull their ambulance, but Crookston will keep theirs there. People would then be taken to Riverview in Crookston or airlifted if necessary by helicopter, standing by in Bemidji if there's any medical emergencies on the east side. And the Louis Murray Bridge over the Red Lake River in East Grand Forks closed this morning. That means people living on the point will have to drive to the Mallory Bridge to get to the rest of the city. Well, coming up next, WDAZ takes to the air to see what the flooding looks like right now in the Northern Valley from the sky.
And just how much are those sandbags costing Grand Forks? Find out next.
I'll have the latest on the chance of snow Monday in tonight's Storm Tracker forecast.
You're watching WDAZ News, your home team, with Cassie Walder, Milo Smith, meteorologist John Wheeler, and Pat Sweeney Sports.
WDAZ got a bird's eye view of the flood situation today as Chief Photographer Chris Regenbald took a flight over the northern Red River Valley. WDAZ's Jessica Dugan reports.
The first thing you notice just a few miles north of Hillsboro is how much the Red River winds on its way north, off of snaking east and west several times in a span of less than a mile. The biggest ice jam between Grand Forks and Hillsboro was here, about 17 miles south of Grand Forks. You can see how the ice is forcing the river out of its banks. Just a little further downstream is the Climax Bridge. This is one of the few remaining bridges open between Fargo and Grand Forks. And just a couple miles north of the Climax Bridge, another huge ice jam. Next on our flight is a massive amount of ice being held up by the now closed Thompson Bridge, located about 10 miles south of Grand Forks. Now you can see the Red River creeping towards the Grand Forks 18-hole Country Club golf course. And on the golf course's north edge is the Burke addition. As we've reported, hundreds of people have been busy laying sandbags for several days. As we enter the Grand Forks city limits, you can see how the river has completely escaped its banks and is creeping towards the flood wall. The last leg of the flight takes us over the downtown area. You can see just how wide the river is as it passes between Grand Forks and East Grand Forks and has almost reached the deck of the Sorley Bridge, but still has a couple of feet to rise before overtaking the Kennedy. In the Red River Valley with photographer Chris Regenball, Jessica Dugan, WDAZ News.
And we hope to bring you more views from the air as the red gets closer to its Grand Forks crest.
The flood fight is going full speed, but it doesn't come without a price. Thousands of sandbags are being made to protect Grand Forks County residents, and the cost for each one turns out to be about $1.40. At this point, $140,000 have been put into sand, supplies, and transportation for about 100,000 or more bags already in place throughout the county. And that number is expected to possibly double. Once 200,000 bags have been made, county officials will reevaluate and, if necessary, start making more bags. $500,000 was budgeted by the county commission earlier this week to go toward the flood fight.
We haul bags out of Sandbag Central. They got to go on a dike within 2 hours. They're froze. They're useless.
Now, they also talked today about stockpiling 50,000 sandbags to use in case of an emergency.
And Sandbag Central in Grand Forks is operating around the clock. More than 200 people are filling sandbags for anyone in Grand Forks and Grand Forks County, and they are looking for more people to help with day and night shifts. People can call the flood hotline to get sandbags or to volunteer. That number 787-8052. People in East Grand Forks and Polk County can get their sandbags at the Public Works Building. People can call the Action Hotline at 399-3456 for sandbags in East Grand Forks or to volunteer. There are a limited number of sandbags, and they are asking that only people in immediate danger request them, and they're on a first-come, first-served basis.
Helping out the county as best we can. We still believe we're completely safe within city limits. We don't see a need of sandbag, but we got what we need.
The city of East Grand Forks is helping out Polk County with needed sandbags and asking for more volunteers. People who live out in Polk County can call the Sheriff's Department for sandbags in Crookston. That number 218-281-0437. East Grand Forks residents can pick up their sandbags at the Public Works Building. They can also call the East Side Flood Hotline with questions. Again, that number 399-3456.
Minnesota Governor Tim Pawlenty got a first-hand look today at the flood fight by air and ground. Pawlenty served food to volunteers in Moorhead for a bit today. He says the state is doing all it can using the National Guard, Department of Transportation, and other agencies in the flood fight. Pawlenty says the first phase of federal help is here.
Minnesota and North Dakota compete in things like hockey and football, but now our two respective states are joined together in an epic fight against Mother Nature, and it's a close call.
Pawlenty says he has talked to President Obama and is keeping him up to date on the situation. Lawmakers traveling with Pawlenty say they'll try hard to secure state funding for flood protection.
Local social service agencies are offering up their help to people affected by flooding. The United Way of Grand Forks and East Grand Forks are meeting with agencies like the Salvation Army, the Grand Forks Health Department, and Grand Forks County Social Services to help people in our area. They say they have a lot to offer flood victims.
I just want to start and to see certainly what we can do, especially a lot of the mental health issues and concerns that might be with clients and things.
Social service agencies like The Village say they can offer help for those dealing with mental health issues.
Circle of Friends Humane Society is accepting pets displaced by flooding should pet owners need to evacuate. The Humane Society of Grand Forks will coordinate temporary shelter in other locations as well should its space become limited at its North Washington facility. For information, you can call the Circle of Friends at 775-3732. Also, Wagon Train, a local kennel, is working to shelter dogs. Their number is 746-9330. 1. And
finally tonight, we leave you with a look at the rise of the Red River over the last 6 days.
Yes, the U.S. Geological Survey has been taking web camera pictures 3 times a day of the red in Grand Forks since Saturday. Taken together, you get to see the river's rise in pretty dramatic fashion. Have a good weekend, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow night for news at 6.
Good night.
We now join the following program, already in progress.
For this 60-year-old, retirement seems as elusive as that dream she has spent her life selling.